Okay, so we've arrived at the spot here in Red Rock where everything starts to happen in terms of the railway in this particular area. So you can see the grade stretching in front of us here to the west, and you can see how it opens up. And so this area would have been known, I've heard it called the storage pocket. So the main line was just right in front of us here. You can see some of the ridges in the background where what gives Red Rock its name, the red colored ridges. And so again, so this area would have opened up and there would have been a series of lines here. Not quite sidings, there was no siding here, but basically it was called the storage pocket. There were a series of rails here that they would have used to store the rail cars full of paper from the paper mill. And then up here, if we jump up to our north here, and so basically you can see the still active Canadian Pacific line just right up here, their Nippigan subdivision. And then you can basically see here what would have been the spur running down from the Canadian Pacific line into Red Rock here to the mill. So this was, I've heard it called the transfer line. And so you can see here that there's still ties in their place. And so these would have continued down, and then eventually it crosses the Canadian National line, and there was an interlock here at Red Rock. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our way down, and then we're going to head westwardly on the bike and get to the junction point between these two lines. And so here you can see how it really opens up again with those multiple rail lines. And then the farthest one, I believe, the one closest to furthest to the south, would have been the actual spur that would have ran down, the CN spur that would have ran down to the mill here in Red Rock. And so right up here, you're actually going to see the last remnants of the most eastern signal for the interlock here. And so you can see sort of the galvanized metal platforms. Actually, it looks like there's some fish plates in there. And so you can see another platform here. And then there's actually a piece of rail, and we're going to see more pieces of rail just right up here. So basically this is the junction point between the CN line and the Canadian Pacific line. So you can see the transfer line coming down, and then they are going to meet just up here. You can see that there actually is the one end of the switch here. And so you can see the switch here, and I'll try to flip this thing. You can see the block end sign here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of a closer look at this junction spot area, take a little closer look at the rails, and then kind of see where they cross over the road there onto the west side where Red Rock Station proper would have been. Okay, so we've moved just slightly to the west here, and so we're going to walk our way through this this interlock here between the Canadian National and the Canadian Pacific. So again, you can see the Canadian Pacific transfer line here coming in and then merging with the Canadian National main line, and then the interlock is just up ahead. In terms of the rails, so there still is kind of neat, there still is some rails here in place. The rails themselves are kind of a real mishmash of different dates and different manufacturers that we've seen on many occasions here. You can see some fish plate bolts here, and so this one here, so this is Algoma. I think you can see Algoma over here. So there's Algoma, 100-pound, 1928. And then over here, this is Dominion. This is Dominion, 1947. And so here you can actually see where the two lines come together. Here's another one. Here's Algoma, 1946. You can see a whole pile of fish plate bolts and nuts. This is another manufacturer, DI and S. There's Algoma, 1952. And what's left of a Dominion 42 insulator. And so here would have been right in the interlock section. And so you can see all the switching mechanisms for the junction here. Again, the manufacturers on the rail. So this is Algoma, 1949. Kind of a beautiful day here in Red Rock. Going this way is okay. Going the other way into the wind is very, very chilly. So we're going to sidestep here. And so this is the Canadian Pacific spur here. And so it's going to start turning to the south, going towards the mill. And obviously this is the CN main line here. This is the Kinghorn. All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to follow this spur line here to the south, and then we're going to come back and take a look at the main line track. So again, this is the Canadian Pacific spur, and this continues to work its way to the south here. What we're going to do is we're going to jump over and we're going to take a look at the CN spur, and eventually they kind of merge together just up ahead and then would make their way south towards the mill here in Red Rock. Okay, so this seems to be a remaining piece of the spur over here on the Canadian National side. I would imagine that probably the main spur would have been probably right over here, it appears, kind of working its way south, but there is a piece of couple pieces of track left over here, and this one here, just to give you an idea of the rails, you can see this one is Dominion, 100-pound, and I see 1950 on there. These ones here, I don't see anything on here. It's hard to see. Anyway, so we'll work our way to the south here. Can't see if there's any identifying marks on here. These are 1958. These are Algoma, 100-pound, 1958. And so the CN spur would have continued this way. You can see some of the pieces of pipe, and there's washers, and spikes. You can actually still see where the indentations were from the ties here. Still smell that lovely aroma of creosote. And so then there's the Canadian Pacific. And so these two lines would have come here and merged. Right here. So you can see the junction spot right here and still see some of the ties here. You're going to see where the rails would have come together and merged. And then you can see the spur here continuing to the south. Is that a groundhog up there on the tracks? And then continued making its way south towards the mill.